episode of Stoke Meter. And, we are stoked all the time to have some fantastic guests, but you won't find an ambassador of Stoke that often like Colby Bauer. And Colby Bauer, holy moly. So I ran into Colby last week at an outdoor retailer show, and I went past this thing and I flipped out because, okay, I got to show you. So those of you not watching it, you'll get slighted, but all my daughters and all our teammates are these Thread Wallet bananas fans. It's insane. And so I saw the insignia over there and I go, is your CEO here? And they go, there he is. And Colby comes up, couldn't be a nicer guy. And he tells me the story about Thread. And so I'm going to let him tell you the story about Thread in a minute, but please welcome this amazing individual, Colby Bauer.
Dude,
for being on the show, man.
Absolutely, dude. I'm telling you, you guys, the energy is just unreal right now. I'm just feeling it.
We were all just telling the audience, we were all just geeking out about our past lives and wakeboarding and action sports and everything else, man. It's just fun. It's fun.
Dude, you guys are living a good life, and so am I. Thanks for having me on.
Oh no, this is truly an honor because I'm looking at how a simple thing can just impact so many people, adults, kids, the whole bit. And you got to give us a story. I mean, Fred is only 7 years old, man. You're everywhere. And I love that fact. So how did it even get started, man?
So actually it got started I was out. It's funny. I got this really fun opportunity. I was playing BYU soccer in Utah, and at the tryouts, this guy was walking around with a clipboard, a coach. I'd never seen him before, and he comes up to me and he said, "Hey, I'm the BYU Hawaii coach. You ever considered playing out in Hawaii?" And I was like, you know what? Like, I've never thought about that, but he drew up this beautiful picture, and I've always wanted to learn to surf. Telling you guys, I grew up in Arizona, and I always envied these California kids who had the ocean. I was like, kind of just start daydreaming as he was talking, trying to sell me on playing out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, can you imagine just me like on the beach, driving my little white truck out there to North Shore with my old rickety board and go learn to surf North Shore? Like, I started to daydream and I was like, yes, I'm on. Like, however we have to figure this out, I'm in. Like, how do we got to do this? So I talked to my coach there at BYU and somehow convinced him to let me go out there. And I would transfer out there in the fall. So like when the waves are big. And then in summertime, I'd come back to Utah and play at the season here in the summer. So it was like this beautiful scenario where I got to live the best in Utah and in Hawaii. So anyways, first week out there, I go out and I go surfing and I completely spaced. Thank you. I'm about to eat lunch too. But yeah, I go out there first week out and I paddle out and completely spaced. I had my wallet, my leather wallet that I got at some like Goodwill, left it in my board shorts and lost it to the ocean. So you guys know how that goes. Anyone who loses their wallet, it's like the pain of like, okay, I got to cancel my cards. I got to renew my driver's license, like the whole thing, So anyways, I do that. And kind of in the meantime, I'm thinking like, I need to get a new wallet. And so I look online and I just Google men's wallets and I just start looking through the images. And it was like kind of the same George Costanza, fat, bulky, like, those fat wallets that like your dad had from the 80s. Yeah. It was like, how is there nothing new? How has this category not seen any sort of innovation, any sort of expression? So I didn't buy a wallet, actually. I ended up just like carrying my cards in my pocket. And I go to the grocery store. It's called Foodland there in North Shore.
Oh, yeah.
If you've been out there, everyone loves Foodland. Poke is amazing. And I notice as I'm going through the vegetable side, there's this thick rubber band around some of the broccoli and the asparagus, And I'm like, dude, there's my new wallet right there. I straight snagged that thing and just wrapped it around my cards.
Yeah.
walked out, didn't pay for the broccoli, and found my new favorite wallet, especially living in wet board shorts all the time. It was
Right.
like the perfect thing, you know? And it's like how, like, just the most minimalist you can get.
Yeah.
So fell in love with this thing, uh and fast forward through college, I had this class out there in one of my entrepreneurship classes where I had to come up with a product idea to launch on Kickstarter. It's a crowdfunding
Yep.
website, and the whole semester you kind of build up this campaign and you launch it. And I'm just thinking, like, I'll just make a better rubber band, you know?
Right.
And not only that, like, I love the minimalistic approach to the wallet, but I also have always loved lifestyle brands. I've always been involved in action sports and love that side of fashion. So I thought, okay, if I can come up with the better rubber band, but really bring the category to life with fun patterns and colors and things like that, I felt like, okay, that'd be a really fun project. So let's do it. I launched it on Kickstarter, and it was very slow moving. I mean, you can see how poorly I executed it was. Just go on Kickstarter and you get a good laugh at our first campaign. And I didn't think like this would really go anywhere. But I actually had this other idea. I was into soccer, and I thought, okay, the same equipment I need to make this wallet is the same machine I could use to make soccer socks. Where I could print on soccer socks and sell like customized team socks, you know. And Stance socks was kind of up in their front, you know, like they're just real like a rocket ship during this time. This is 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I just do the same thing as Stance, but in the soccer world. And so, anyways, my buddy, business partner, he donated $6,000 of his own dollars on Kickstarter to help fund the project so that we could collect the extra only $2,000 that came from legitimate backers, you know.
Right.
But we did that so we could get the equipment to then make these socks. Well, we ordered socks. This is kind of the long story long, but we ordered socks from China, these just white socks, you know, performance socks that we would just sublimate onto. And sublimation, for those that don't know, is a printing process where you can really put like pretty much any color you want. Right. Put your face on the sock if you want. And so we thought, okay, we'll order these socks. We ordered like the minimum was 500 pairs. And as we're waiting for these to be produced, I started noticing that these friends that I thought were just backing our Kickstarter project just because they were friends, they actually used the wallets. And I started asking, like, you know, do you actually like this thing? Like, because I was kind of embarrassed by it, and it's just, you know, it was just a loop, right? I was just like, there's no way anybody could really like this thing. And sure enough, they're like, dude, this is my favorite wallet I've ever had. Like I could sell this all day, you know. Like, so I talked to my buddy Romy, and I told him, I said, you know, we could enter the Stance model of soccer socks, and I think we could do it. But I think the bigger opportunity here is this wallet category. Nobody's focusing on it. It's just this like white space where we could go in and own it. We could own the category in all the shops that we've ever wanted to be in. You know, every surf skate shop that we've dreamed about being in, we could be in there, and we could be the Stance socks of wallets in essence. And so somehow convinced him to cancel the order in China, which we actually ended up having to pay for. I think we had to pay like 50% and get 0 socks.
No.
And at that time, you know, that was like thousands of dollars, where that's like all you got. But he believed in it. I believed in it. So we just went forward with it. And kind of at the same time, so part of the second Kickstarter, I was like gluing and stapling all of our prototypes. And so I remember thinking, like, I need to find a seamstress. I need to like legitimize our samples so we can have, like, you know, just a better process. And so I found this girl who had a sewing machine, and she was sewing one of our prototypes, and she taught me how to sew. And I was just at her house, and she said, you know, I think I would make this, I would add a key ring to this. I think that girls would really, really like this. And I thought this was definitely just a male dominated category. It was just a front pocket wallet. Like, girls just had their purse, they had their clutch, they had, you know. Like they didn't need this. And she's like, no, I actually like would use this as an alternative to a purse. And instead of having to carry a purse around, I could just grab my keys with my wallet, my gym pass on it, and off I go.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she said, here, let's try it. And so she grabbed one of her headbands off of her doorknob, cut it up, and sewed in a little loop in the wallet. And then we slipped a key ring on it. And later that day, I actually have this picture. I could send it to you if you guys want it for your show notes. But it's a picture of me later that day in Costco with this wallet. And I took a picture and I sent it to her and I said, you were right. I love this thing. And it's me with like my keys on it. And I'm just like loving the functionality. And so long story short, I ended up getting married to this girl. And she's my wife. Yeah, she's my wife and business partner, Mackenzie. And so we get married and we take, my last semester out in Hawaii, we basically our honeymoon was 6 months long. It was amazing out in Hawaii. And we took out 1,000 wallets before we had left. I made 1,000 wallets with Romy, my buddy. And we took them out there and I told her, I said, they were packed in this large suitcase. And I said, I will have sold every single one of these by the end of my semester. And she's like, all right. I don't believe it until I see it. And I was like, all right. So, you know how the story goes out in Hawaii. I have school, I have soccer, and the last thing I'm going to do is try to go sell wallets on the weekend when I could go surf, right? Like there's no way that's going to happen. And so, fast forward November, I have 1 month left in the semester and I had sold 0 wallets. And she goes, and she bugs me and goes, hey, what about those wallets, or what are we going to do with those? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So anyways, I find this little bundle of wood out in, right outside of our apartment. And it was this like right by a dumpster. It was just this tiny little bundle of wood. And I was like, I'm going to make a little display out of this thing. And I didn't have any tools, 0 tools. All I had was glue. And somehow, some way, without having to cut any wood, I'll send the picture of this display. I'm so proud of this thing, dude. It's like the odds, like the stars just aligned. Like God, I think just like created this little bundle of wood for me to make this display. I took it out to Surf and Sea out in Haleiwa, and I bring in this display and I have all these wallets, and the buyer's there. That first off was just that never happened. So the buyer's there, and she lays out all these wallets out on the counter. And she's kind of like trying to decide if she should take them in. And it was not a legitimate process in which you normally would go, right? Yeah. Like you normally have a rep, it's like, it was not professional, but for whatever reason, she could see that the category needed some life into it. So she's debating, and I think she's on the fence. And so I just said, you know what, just take your time and we'll just walk around the store. And in walks this girl, and she grabs a bikini and throws it up on the counter to purchase, and notices our wallets were scattered there and goes, hey, what are these? And the buyer just says, these are literally exactly what Thread display said. It said, these are Thread wallets, a new kind of wallet. and I was like, nailed it. Just absolutely nailed it. And she goes, oh, they're cute. I'll take one. And she's like, actually, I'm going to buy one for my husband too. Sold 2 right on the spot within 5 minutes of walking inside. And the customer walks out the door and the buyer goes, I'll take 20. And I was like, yes, you can't write a better story than that. Promise, I did not pay for that girl to go in there. That was legit. And so that was a very validating moment for me, because to know that they could sell in retail without hardly any education. Yeah. And then we went to these farmers markets. Long story short, Mackenzie was like a pro salesman. She ended up selling about 800 wallets in like 3 weeks. Oh my gosh. Farmers markets. It helped that we had, Black Friday and the holidays coming around the corner. But the fact that we could sell that many at a small local farmers market was like the exact validation that Mackenzie and I needed to know that this is what we were going to do after school. And so we had this, fork in the road where I was graduating, and I had an opportunity to play professional soccer. And then my dad's a financial advisor, and he wanted me to come on and be a financial advisor with him at his firm. And so I had some opportunities. And I actually remembered this was like one of these things where when I asked my wife's dad, my father-in-law, if I could marry my wife, he said, and just to give you a little background on him, this dude's like, he's 5'5", kind of has a little, in my mind, had this like little dog syndrome, and always gave me like this like intimidation, like power stance, and he sat me down in his living room right below one of his doll sheep that he'd killed, that it was like, and he asked me, he's like, so what are you going to do to provide for Mackenzie and yourself and your family? And I said, I knew that question was coming. And I said, I can't give you the clearest answer, but I can tell you that I'll work my butt off and make sure I take care of her. And he said, well, just so you know, if you don't, I'm going to kill you. and I like started to chuckle, just similar to you right there. And I immediately noticed that he wasn't laughing. And so I quickly just like, stopped smiling. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So anyways, this has been on the back of my mind where, okay. And he's a financial advisor too. And so making this decision, this fork in the road was like so difficult, because I was like, I need to have the security, right? Like, right. I want to make sure, but my heart, my passion was in creating and entrepreneurship. And so it was a hard decision. I remember feeling so stressed for these 2 weeks, and I was like, you know what, let's just go for it. And so Mackenzie was fully on board. We said, let's give this 6 months of our time. And if it starts to take off, we know our answer. If not, we'll reevaluate. And so it was the perfect time to jump in. Didn't have any kids. We were living with my in-laws. It was just, so at this point we moved back to Utah. And anyways, the rest of the story is history. We've, fast forwarding through the last 7 years, we've, well into 8 figures a year.
Oh my gosh.
69 employees, and, we've expanded into bags, into all other accessories, tech accessories, and gotten into, well into 1,500 doors across the country. And it's just been a dream come true, man. I can't even tell you, like, it hasn't been easy. It's been a toll on our marriage, on my own mental health, just all of it, but it's been so rewarding, and I'm so glad we made the decision to do it. Sorry, that was a major ramble.
I freaking love that ramble. Awesome. And to think it started with that stinking rubber band from the broccoli that's still staying there unbundled, man.
Exactly.
Probably your only regret was not getting that lifetime supply of socks.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Never have to buy socks ever again. I had like 4 lifetime supply of socks. Wear a new pair of socks every day.
Well, it's funny because I was looking over LinkedIn the other day, and because my association with you, I saw the COO from Thread, and he goes, look at these new BYU colors, blah, 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 blah. Well, my daughter's going to go there next year. And it's funny because there's a woman that I knew back in New York who's now the president over at UVU. It goes, could you do it in green? And so it's everywhere, man. Yeah. I'm digging it. I'm absolutely digging it.
It never gets old. I get pictures every day from friends across the country or traveling, and they're like, Thread in the wild, or like, I'm in the store, they got your display. It's like, dude, it's a dream come true. I can't tell you. And anyway, I'm very humbled by what it's turned into, and also very stressed about what it's gonna, what it's gonna look like in the future. I stress maybe is not the word. I'm excited, but it's also like, it's not just Mackenzie and I anymore. It's like we got 69 employees, and it's a legitimate business. So it's fun, but it's definitely a lot of weight.
And that's a beauty of it. You could tell you're very adaptable to the different environments, and you have to be. And just to know that you are very methodical about how that, I'll give it 6 months. And so it's not as if you're throwing everything out there. You create options for yourself, which is fantastic. Love it.
Yes. That is such a great point, dude. It's because entrepreneurs by nature are risk takers, and so are action sport athletes, right? Like it's kind of one and the same. But an action sport athlete can't progress if they don't know how to bail, right? You know, like if a skater, a vert skater can't slide on his knees on pads, or, you know, like that dude's not going to progress. And so learning to fail quickly, I call it having a shallow rock bottom, you know, and just being able to like you said, adapt and evolve and pivot and see the needs to pivot. That's all really entrepreneurship is. Like, you could start off on one idea like socks and completely, you know, pivot to something new, but it's seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of it. And anyways, humility is a major part of saying, okay, I didn't set up on the right foot, or I was wrong. You know, it's okay to say that, like, that's good. And being able to fail, that's like all part of it. Like success is so it's all just fail, and then eventually you just somehow find to succeed, you know.
That's what I love about you. When I was speaking with you over there at the outdoor retailer, is that I met a ton of CEOs over there, and some of them had a massive chip on the shoulder, but you go over to you, it's like, yo, what's up? And so, I mean, my stoke meter is high, and I thought, if there's an epitome of a leader that knows what stoke and meter are together, it is you, man. It is you.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I think we've definitely tried to bake in a lot of the personality of my wife and I into the culture. And then naturally we just have such an amazing team that I think that one thing I've learned throughout it is, like, you just have these business principles that you have to live by. And for me, it was, there's more to life than work.
Yeah.
And if work is at number one priority all of the time, you're likely not going to be a happy human. There is a lot of fulfillment, a lot of joy in work, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot more to life than work. And so being able to shift your priorities around and kind of find the little mixes of balance of, like, how, okay, now priority right now is family. Okay, now it's golfing with my dad. I just got done golfing. Now it's skating with my buddies tonight, right? Like, it's now I'm gonna go ride the e-bike with my little girls. Like, priorities can shift, and I think you like, it's okay that they shift, and just knowing, like, how to find harmony with that, dude. That's how we've structured our culture. And to me, when our employees know that, like, they're okay to roll in the office at 11 o'clock and leave at 3 if that's what they need to do, as long as they're getting their stuff done and doing it well. Like, that's what we live by. And if they need to go do yoga midday, or if they need to go whatever, it's like, that's it, you know.
Gary, how much does this sound like the interview we had with Richie Norton?
Oh, big time.
Big time. And the ironic thing is, another BYU Hawaii grad. There's something in the water over there, man.
I can't take the credit, dude. I rip pages out of Richie's playbook all the time.
You guys are two peas in a pod for sure, man.
No doubt about it. I mean, the level of excitement that you exude, it's the same thing that we felt from him. Unreal. Well, so I'm going to do, you brought up the word pivot. I'm going to pivot a little bit too.
Right on.
And that is, you have this incredible business, incredible employees, incredible product. You're still on a rocket ship and such. But one thing that was very apparent with you was purpose, and purpose that really you're in it to make a difference and improve lives. And in this case, it's not so much the monetary as the mental aspect of it. And so I came across something on one of your profiles, and it said that you are using action sports through the Carry On program to help kids, and mainly kids, right, become more emotionally resilient, mental health wise. Could you take us through what that is? Because we have had many guests. And Gary, what percentage would you say have brought up mental health?
Probably 90% plus.
Yeah. And this is from incredibly successful.
most of your guests are action sport athletes, correct?
No, we've had
No.
authors, we've had actors,
Okay.
we've had politicians, we've had
Okay.
you name it, man. Mental health is at the cusp. So I want to see what you folks are doing, because this looks fascinating, man.
Yeah, well, dude, thanks, man. It took me a while to finally land on where I needed to like focus my resources to really drive impact. Because for the longest time, it's like we live and die by this principle, my wife and I, and you probably do too, but like this quote of where much is given, much is required.
Yep.
Or like similar to the Spider-Man quote, like where much like power is given, you know, like I can't quote it. I don't. But like, there's a lot of responsibility with that power and with that, that all that you've given. So we've always had that mentality of give where we can. And so we, throughout the years, like with starting Thread, that was always at the forefront. You know, we wanted to just give back, and there's so many organizations out there, and we like whenever, whether it's like a hurricane hits and we send out some money or donate product here and there, or whatever we can do to, you know, beach cleanups, those types of things. But what we really knew was like, if we have to pick our lane, we have to really focus our efforts to drive the impact that we're passionate about. So, you know, growing up, I wouldn't say I dealt with much mental health issues. You know, I felt like I was always just a happy kid. It's pretty like ignorance is bliss type of deal. My mom, you know, is an alcoholic. Has been an alcoholic my whole life. And so with that, you know, as a kid comes just like some weird stress that you don't realize you're taking on, and you don't even really know where it's coming from. You can kind of just feel it. And then as you get older, you start to realize like, this is why, and this is what was happening. This is why my parents got divorced. Like, you just become more aware. And with that, you get more stressed. And for me, I took on like a very severe anxiety from not just that, but just everything kind of colliding with just trying to start a business, with just what life throws at you. Like I said, my mom's roller coaster of her addiction has always affected me. And so I've dealt with ADHD. My uncle ended up committing suicide from very severe OCD. And that's actually what triggered my mom's addiction to alcohol and painkillers. And then actually, like within the last 5 years, my dad got hooked on alcohol. Never saw him as an addict. He just somehow fell into a midlife crisis happened, and all this collided. Like 2020 happened, and you know, I started talking to my sisters, and just like they've dealt with their own stuff, eating disorders and addictions, and you name it. I feel like if you ask anyone, whether if they've dealt with something like in that realm, whether it's them personally or indirectly, dude, it's everyone. For, you know, 100% of people have dealt with mental health issues indirectly or directly. And so, and to really define what mental health is, it's not like you have to have a mental health issue to be focused on your mental health.
Right.
Just as like you don't have to have a physical injury or physical issue to be focused on your physical health. It's mental health is for everyone. And so as I kind of came around these principles and obviously, you know, had these discussions like you guys have had, it became apparent that this is exactly where I needed to give back. It kind of came down to like, my mom was homeless in Salt Lake City. I was taking her to this hospital, and she was just covered in her own vomit, and she had broken ribs. She was passing a kidney stone. Her face was bruised. Her arm was completely not dislocated, completely detached from her elbow. And it was just the gnarliest moment that I just like broke down. And I was like, I need to see a therapist, and I need to be able to face these traumas on. So I finally saw a therapist. I got on some anxiety medication, which has just completely changed my world. And anyways, I also noticed during this time, we built this mini ramp in our office, and I was skating it like every single night, like for hours on end. I would just call up buddies, and we just literally till like 1, 2 in the morning, we'd skate till like midnight, and then just talk for hours about just life. And, you know, anyways, what I came to realize was I was finding mental health. Obviously, the clinical side of mental health was necessary, but my own joy was through action sports and through the community that action sports provides. And so I started to like, it all kind of hit, and I was like, this is exactly what I need to do. And the stars aligned once again. Our at Thread, our campaign slogan at the time was "Carry On," and it referenced the carry accessories that we sell. And it also, the narrative we took was like progression. You know, how do you push through? How do you land the new trick? How do you get through? One of our ambassadors, she's a skateboarder, and her face got ripped off by a pit bull. And so she had to deal with this like trauma of she's a beautiful girl, and her whole face was ripped off. And so she had to go through surgeries. She currently doesn't have a lip, you know? And we told that story, and it was just empowering, where I was like, this narrative is so like, it resonates with me. It resonates with so many people. This narrative of carry on, it's always relevant. It's an eternal principle. This is what I need. This is exactly what Thread needs to stand for.
Yeah.
And so as we dove into that narrative more and more and more, I thought, let's put our money where our mouth is, and let's start a nonprofit. So we started 6 months ago. We decided we were going to start the Carry On Foundation, which is a nonprofit that focuses on teaching mental skills to mainly youth, mental skills that help them carry on, whether that's now or whether that's in 20 years when, you know, what something happens in their life, they lose a loved one. It's like, okay, I know this pain. I know how I have resilience. I know how to overcome anxieties. I know how to overcome fears. Like, it's all new. It's not new to me. Like, I've developed these characteristics. So that's our goal. We want to prepare the rising generation with the mental skills and tools to know how to carry on. And so I guess where we're at now is we've built an indoor skate park here in Utah, and we've been coaching about 55 kids the past 4 months. And we just launched our first summer camp. It went really well this past week. And it's just awesome, dude. It's really like exactly where I want to spend the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh, Gary, I mean, how amped are you right now on this one, man?
Yeah. Big time. The cool thing is, like, okay, I'm in healthcare, and I don't know why, you know, we always get technical, you know, like primary care, tertiary care, all this blah, blah, blah. You just said it in such a way that makes so much sense, is that mental health is just like our normal health. Like, we shouldn't be looking at it when it's broken. We shouldn't be looking at it when we're dragging ourselves across the floor. We need to be looking at it now. Yeah. And especially like with these youth, holy crap, man, that is so freaking cool that you're giving them tools. Because, you know, like you said, you hit a point in your life where you said, I need some therapy. And basically, I look at therapy as it allows people to get out of their own head by giving them tools to handle not only what's happening now, but what's happening later on. And so, and then when you combine that with something like skateboarding, that's awesome. That's so great.
And on top of that, Colby, what I appreciate is I've alluded to this before in times past, is vulnerability, right? You allow yourself to be vulnerable, but at the same time, when those kids see you and go, listen, man, I went through some therapy too, bro. And quite frankly, it helped me. So instead of making it taboo, you normalize it and you make it like, yeah, man, I do have a problem. I guess I better go get that checked out. It's all good. And you've taken that taboo out of that. And for a kid, that's a hard thing to take, right? I mean, I have a few teenage kids, and it's like, man, I'm tough. You're putting on that face, you're putting that facade, and yet here you are. You are obviously an incredibly successful in every endeavor, and you allow yourself to be vulnerable in such a way that they see it as not a vulnerability. They realize, and if I want to progress, that's what it is that I got to do. Whether that be skidding on your knees in the skate or what have you, that's how you learn. And you're making it a safe environment to learn, man. I appreciate that.
Dude, I agree. You said something there that like really kind of hit me with, like, humility is a prerequisite for progression, I think.
Mhm.
They're like the best of the best, and even if they're super cocky and prideful, it took them some slams, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took them a lot of failures and a lot of humility to say, okay, that's not the right way, I got to choose this way, right? Like it's very humbling to progress, but it also takes humility to progress.
Yeah.
So anyways, I thought that's powerful, dude.
That is amazing. And matter of fact, I think I know the title of your podcast.
There you
Yeah,
go.
when you said that humility is a prerequisite to success, I couldn't agree more, man. I could not.
In
agree
everything.
more.
And then
Everything.
on the flip side of the coin, pride precedes the fall, right?
Yeah.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
And one thing you said, so we were talking about the prevalence of mental health, and you made a comment that you said, wait a minute, is your demographic action sports people? Because we used to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of guessing that you were probably going to say something, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but it also seems like people who tend to gravitate towards action sports and excitement and that type of stuff, kind of they call them the adrenaline sports.
Yeah.
Also seem to have a prevalence to having mental health issues a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're not getting that. I don't know if you see that or not.
100%, dude. It definitely has affected our community. Even when you run into the most happiest people, right? Like you look at them and you go, dude, they just got it made. Like they figured something out, right? Those guys inside are dealing with like a level of depression sometimes, you know, and some of, we've in the skate community have lost some very well-known pros to suicide. And it's very prevalent. I think, like I said, if you were to ask anybody how, if they've been affected by mental health issue directly or indirectly, they would say 100%, whether that's friends, family, or otherwise. Like I think what you also were mentioning is that there is a stigma around it from past generations.
Mm-hmm.
Just golfing with my dad, we started talking about it, and it's there is kind of this like trained mentality in the older generation to just rub some dirt in it and to not talk about the emotions, to not be vulnerable, to hide weaknesses, and to those types of things. And actually that watching my dad do that and kind of sweep his feelings under the rug for so long, I believe is actually what kind of like built up and then sparked this like midlife crisis to like kind of find some sort of release. And it's like, because he didn't, at that point, like we're all kind of out of the house, we're all well and good, and so he like lets his guard down, and it's like, okay, I don't need to be this like rock anymore, I can kind of let my, so then it just like collapses. I mean, so many people, old and young, are faced with these types of mental health issues, or just mental health in general. And if you haven't, then you likely will. And so to know how to approach that, how to have an open dialogue around it, that's so crucial. To even like put a name to it, right? Like I felt like stomach aches. I dealt with these like knots in my stomach for 12 years. And I finally was able to diagnose it to stress and anxiety. Wow. And I told my dad, I was like, I think I have anxiety. He's like, yeah, he's like, I've had anxiety. I've been on anxiety medication for 20 years. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Like, what? I've been like trying to figure this out, and it's just like, it needs to be more of a discussion, and it's not weird. It's not abnormal to go to therapy. It's like, dude, everyone could use therapy. It's not like you have to be broken to see a therapist. Therapy, really, what I learned is like, it just helps you understand your own brain, and then how to navigate your brain to become a better person. Like that's it. And who doesn't want to do that, right?
Oh, 100%. You just reminded me of someone else we interviewed, a guy named Scott Miller. He's I don't know if you ever met Scott. He was the leader of thought leadership at Franklin Covey at one time. And he said he's a massive stutterer. You would never know that in interviewing him. But he said that unless we embrace our vulnerabilities, people can weaponize them against you. And it was so like, whoa, man. Because when you talk about those vulnerabilities, then you have this community of strength to support where you might be weak. And if you're hiding that, you don't know where the help is, whatever it might be, physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, whatever it might be. It just nailed me like a hammer, man.
You were talking about, going back to kind of mental health and action sports and stuff like that. First of all, my dad was a physician, and I had problems with depression, at different times, and he had no clue what to do, because that's, even as a healthcare provider, he had no idea. But I remember, as I got older, one of the tragic events that really kind of affected me, I don't know, and I wasn't even that really much into BMX, was Dave Mira. I don't know if you remember him or not, but someone who just the happiest, go lucky, amazing person. And all of a sudden, it just rocked the world. You know what I mean? But I so appreciate that people are willing to talk about it now, that people, just you telling your story right now and getting it out, it has such a positive effect on this situation. You know what I mean? And then you couple that with what you're doing with your program. I mean, that, and those kids, they're going to become parents.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
exactly. Dude, that's one thing I've come to realize too, is like, if you're not taking care of it now, it can hit you. And then when you're raising your kids, it's affecting them. Like, like my dad's anxiety could affect the way that he treats me or how he raised me. Right. And it can be a number of things, but I'm just using mine as an example. But like, I watch these parents, it's like, first and foremost, we as adults need to get our stuff figured out. And then we can help our kids, and then we can raise them in a proper way,
I would say that one of the most important things about being a parent is showing up. And if you're either physically, mentally, or whatever, emotionally broken, you can't show up. And I think you live that in your life to a high degree.
Well, you could see that just when you were talking with your wife over at OR, man. It was like, those guys are like, boom, they're in it. But the open dialogue, it was so raw. I loved it.
No, my wife, she is something else, dude. It's like, sometimes the more you get to know people, you actually like lose respect for them. You kind of like see them in like a different light. Right. We've been married 8 years, but the more I get to know my wife, the more in awe I am, dude. It's just crazy. Like, like she comes with her weaknesses, and so do I. But like, you're right. I mean, we are far from perfect. We'll have blow up. I've been slapped by my wife like plenty of times. It's okay, but dude, she's amazing, and it takes the refiner's fire, and like I think one of you, I can't remember who was saying it, but just acknowledging your weaknesses and acknowledging your vulnerabilities is step number one. Into knowing how to change that, right? Or to not get taken advantage of, or to whatever, right? Like the best people in anything, right? Like, let's say Stephen Curry, because he's pretty relevant right now. He knows that he just doesn't dunk, right? He's not a dunker. He like, that's okay, but that dude shoots threes for like times 10 on everybody. So he knows where he's strong, and he doubled down on it. It's like, so whatever. I think that like, first step in being strong is understanding your weaknesses.
Oh man.
And sometimes I'm realizing that they're not going to go anywhere. And that's okay too. You know what I mean?
Totally.
That's all right.
Agreed.
Man, I'm telling you right now, Colby, this could go on and on and on and on. And I'm just looking at you mentioned your friend and the representative that was bitten and such. I just see other things like this, and I'm hoping that we can do more shows with you, because it's obvious that not only you're a company of Stoke, but you're a culture of Stoke. And as dorky as that might sound, that's something that just not only gets me amped, but in a funny kind of way, it gives me hope because I know that you guys aren't perfect, and it's something that you acknowledge and that you make each other better every day. So I hope that's something you consider, man.
It's all about progression, dude. That's it. Carry on. That's the narrative.
Amen, man.
Carry on. That's it. Like, and dude, sometimes you gotta take 20 steps back before you can really push forward. But that's all part of it, dude. Sometimes you gotta be put on your ass, I guess, so to speak, to like really be humble to say, okay, all right, now I know what not to do. Now I can proceed and really progress. But that's life, right?
Oh my gosh, dude, you are a freaking rock star. That's all. You know what? If I could have had a boss like you when I first started out, I'd still be at whatever company I started at.
Sure.
Thanks, dude. I'm still learning. I'm young, but like I said, I can't take credit for a lot of these things because I took a lot of pages out of Jeff Curl's playbook at Stance.
Yep.
I mean, there's been a lot of people, John Wilson, a lot of people came before me, Davis Smith at Cotopaxi. These guys are amazing leaders, and they're much older. They're wiser. I think one quote that stuck with me at an early age was, "A smart man will learn from his mistakes, but a wise man will learn from others' mistakes." And so, and I've tried to just take that approach and like being wise and knowing when, like, who to follow, right?
Wow.
Like knowing that these guys did it, they did it right. And I don't really understand the reasons completely why yet, but I'm going to follow them and trust that it's going to work out.
You are awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for the time. And please stay on a minute. I want to talk to you just post show, but thank you for making the time. It's been fun, even though you switched it to Pacific time. But
dude, my bad.
No worries. Thank you, Colby. Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you guys, dude. Thank you.